In the face of climate change and environmental loss, it's easy to feel like the challenges are too big to solve. But around the world, people are proving that change starts where you stand. The Goldman Environmental Prize honors grassroots leaders protecting our planet. Leaders like Alana Akok-Hurley, who helped defend Alaska's Bristol Bay from a massive mine, and Iroro Tonchi, who mobilized communities to protect Nigeria's rainforests from wildfires. Discover their stories and more at goldmanprize.org.
Next time you go to the beach, don't forget to bring your sunscreen and your generational trauma. This is Daughters of the Dust. What a crazy week I had last week.
Oh,
Apologies for having to cancel.
You did have a crazy week.
It was stupid. But it's done.
For those of you listening, we are winding down because we are almost done with the 2022 Top 100 list. I'm having a baby, which we've said on previous episodes, but if you're tuning into this one and missed those ones, here's that announcement. And also, yeah, we're gonna be taking a break. We have one more episode after this before we finish the Top 100,
Which is crazy. Of the 2022 list.
Of the 2022, which we've already done the 2012. And we'll be taking a break. So I'm not quite sure exactly how long that will be. I guess it's whenever I feel up to coming back.
Paternity leave.
Paternity leave. But what we'll be doing when we come back is we'll be tackling the top 250. And honestly, I'm like really excited about the 250.
Are you?
I feel like there's so many movies in the 250 that are almost more exciting than the stuff in the top 100.
I feel that.
So like some maybe wild cards in there or something.
Name one.
Honestly, I can't. Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something. I think that's on
Really?
the 250. Yeah.
Is it really?
It is, yeah. Deservedly
That's
so.
going to be really bad for me.
This is Seen and Heard. Forgot to intro the show.
It's number 118. Wow, that's high.
Texas Chainsaw?
Yeah.
Yeah. What number is Daughters of the Dust?
Number 60.
Number 60. So we're still in the middle. We ping pong here towards the middle of the list. Last week we did The Gleaners and I.
Gleaners and I.
Well, it's 2 weeks ago now. And now we're on Daughters of the Dust.
Yeah. So there's number 60 is tied with Daughters of the Dust, La Dolce Vita, and Moonlight.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we did Moonlight a couple episodes ago, and we did La Dolce Vita when we did the 2012 list.
There's no 62, there's no 61, but 63 is Casablanca, The Third Man, and Goodfellas.
Hint, hint. We've done two of those three. So one of those three is next week's
and that's
episode.
The ping pong. So it's like boom, boom.
Yeah. Before we get into Daughters of the Dust, though, Jackie, have you seen anything else in these last 2 weeks now?
I saw The Drama, which is really good, and I can't say anything else about it because I don't want to, because it'll spoil.
I want to see it.
Go see it, and I know you can't, but go see it in a theater because it's really fun to see in theaters.
Big audience reactions?
Big.
Nice.
I saw Body Double for the first time.
Oh, De Palma? Wait, did you like it?
Yeah.
I love it.
It's really good. It's really silly.
Check out, I did...
It's really stupid.
I did
but
an
I liked it.
episode, our friend Felicia's podcast, Seeing Faces in Movies. I did an episode with her on Body Double.
It's such an interesting concept because it is like, I mean, I think we talked about it when we did Vertigo and Rear Window, how it's kind of this blend of both of them, but not in the way that I thought it was at all. And I just love the way people talk in it. It's just so silly.
Oh.
It's really funny.
And the score...
And I love the the porn sequence is really
Oh, yes.
good.
Uh-huh.
It's really good.
It's a great LA movie, too. The locations are just...
Locations are so good. He's at the farmer's market all the time.
Yeah, he is.
I rewatched Paper Moon, which is so good.
It's so good.
I know. It's really one of the best. New Hollywood movies.
It is a staple. It's a great movie.
What have you been watching?
Kind of continuing my noir kick, which I'm very heavily on. I saw, I'd seen it before, but Maltese Falcon. I'm kind of going back and rewatching the great stuff that maybe I saw 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago in the case of Maltese Falcon and hadn't really revisited. So I'm like going back to those. Of course, it's great.
Yeah, it's great.
I saw the Val Lewton movie, The Seventh Victim, which is kind of noir, kind of a horror noir, interesting hybrid. I don't know that the movie fully clicks together, but it's like really fascinating and deals with like this satanic cult in like 1940s Hollywood.
Wait, what's it called?
The Seventh Victim. I saw The Killing, which again, the Kubrick movie, the Kubrick noir, which I hadn't seen in like 20 years. Oh my God. Wait, you've seen it, right?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God, Jackie. It's fucking incredible. It's Kubrick's third feature. I think it's his third feature. And already he's like a master filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like, honestly, it is one of the greatest noirs. It has Sterling Hayden in it. The cast is amazing, but it's like, it's kind of crazy because like, I think in order to make movies like 2001 and stuff that are kind of like these abstract like things, you have to first master the sort of traditional Hollywood movie. And Kubrick does it here. I mean, he does it also with like Paths of Glory and stuff, which came after. But like, this is a perfect crime thriller. It's character driven. It's gritty. It's like 90 minutes. The cast is great. The script is tight. Like, holy shit, Kubrick was just amazing from the beginning. And I feel like because he mastered that, then he goes on to do, you know, stuff that's a little bit more unconventional. Rewatched Network, which I hadn't seen in a while.
I've actually been wanting to rewatch.
Not a noir, but a great film.
I love that movie.
And it's just more relevant as time passes. Rewatched Life of Brian, which I hadn't seen in a long time. And I rewatched Dead Man, the Jarmusch movie. So just kind of actually in a big rewatch mood. Also
That's
did
good.
Eternal Sunshine, which I hadn't seen in a couple years. So that's
like
me.
10 movies.
Well, it's been 2 weeks since we recorded. So
Do you watch one every night?
oh, I try. Yeah, I try.
You still try every night?
I try, especially before the baby
Well,
comes.
yeah, you have
I'm trying to
to.
get them in now.
Yeah.
That's why I'm really specific to now about just watching the stuff I want to watch.
That's true.
So
That's
anyway,
true.
should we just get into this week's film?
Let's do it.
From 1991, this is Julie Dash's Daughters of the Dust.
The film tells the story of the Pezant family living on Dada Island off the coast of Georgia in 1902. The Pezants are descendants of enslaved Igbo people and remained on the island speaking a Creole known as Gullah and practicing a blend of West African traditions. On the eve of their migration to the mainland, many members of the family gather to spend one last day together on the island. They are led by the elderly matriarch, Nana Pezant, who strongly opposes leaving the island. She believes the family should stay connected to their ancestors and the land and practice traditional African beliefs and customs. Eula, one of the younger women, is pregnant after being raped by a white man. Her husband Eli, Nana's great-grandson, struggles with the situation and questions whether he can accept the child. The film is narrated by their unborn child, whose spirit observes her family in the present. Viola, one of Nana's great-granddaughters, has already moved north and become a devout Christian. She returns with a photographer, Mr. Sneed, to document the family's migration. She supports her family's move, believing it will lead to progress and opportunities. Yellow Mary, a cousin who has been living on the mainland, returns to the island with her companion, Trula. Another of the great-granddaughters, Hagar Pezant, berates Yellow Mary for her lifestyle as a fallen woman, but looks forward to her new life on the mainland. Her daughter, Iona, receives a letter from a Cherokee man, St. Julian Lastchild, confessing his love and asking her to stay on the island. The family gathers on the beach for a large meal where they talk, argue, and reflect on their past and future. During this time, Eula becomes frustrated with the gossip around Yellow Mary and speaks openly about her pregnancy and rape, insisting that they all carry traumas as descendants of enslaved people. Nana Pezant takes Viola's Bible and combines it with totems devoted to their ancestors, representing the old and new way, and blesses each of her children with it. Right before their boat leaves, Iona jumps off and onto St. Julian's horse, running away with him. Yellow Mary decides she wants to stay on the island. The unborn child explains her parents stayed on the island, and Nana Pezant lived long enough to see her birth. The film stars Cora Lee Day as Nana Pezant, Barbara Oh as Yellow Mary, Alva Rogers as Eula Pezant, Cheryl Lynn Bruce as Viola Pezant, and Adisa Anderson as Eli Pezant. The film is spoken in Gullah Creole, which the actors had to learn for the film. Julie Dash was a graduate of UCLA Film School in the 1980s and part of the LA Rebellion movement of Black filmmakers, including Charles Burnett of Killer of Sheep, which you can hear about in our episode on the film. Daughters of the Dust is famously the first full-length film directed by an African-American woman to obtain a theatrical release in the United States. The story is inspired by her father's Gullah family who lived off the coast of South Carolina and migrated to New York City in the early 20th century. She originally envisioned Daughters of the Dust as a dialogue-free short, and she did make it to use for fundraising, but it was rejected by producers. She did end up getting $800,000 from the PBS series American Playhouse in 1988, which funded the film. The Pezants live in Ebo's Landing, which is a historical site where a mass suicide took place in 1803 by enslaved Ebo people after landing there. It's briefly mentioned in the film, but I was kind of looking into it after watching the film, and it's actually really fascinating because it's kind of folklore at this point. Like, some people say that they rebelled on the ship, and so when they landed, they made the choice to just take their own lives. Other accounts are like, they mentioned that they believed that one of their gods would save them. They wanted to return to the water because they thought that their spirits would be free. And so there is real folklore about what actually happened there, which is really fascinating. The film was shot on St. Helena's Island and Hunting Island off the coast of South Carolina. Principal photography was 28 days. They were temporarily evacuated to Charleston to avoid Hurricane Hugo, but it actually passed over the island and destroyed or did a lot of damage in Charleston. And it took nearly a year to complete post-production. Julie Dash made the intentional decision not to use subtitles. She only uses them twice for important plot points. The film screened at the 1991 Sundance Film Festival. It won the Excellence in Cinematography Award. It opened to critical acclaim, but Julie Dash was never really able to secure funds to make another feature-length, widely released film. She made some TV films, but she never really worked in the Hollywood system again. She wrote 2 books associated with Daughters of the Dust, the first being a history of the making of the film, which she co-wrote with Tony Cade Bambara and Bell Hooks, and it's called Daughters of the Dust, The Making of an African-American Woman's Film. And she also wrote a sequel to Daughters of the Dust, which is set 20 years after the film story takes place, and it's called Daughters of the Dust, a Novel, and it was released in 1997. Also, Beyoncé's visual album, Lemonade, makes several references to Daughters of the Dust, which I never realized until yesterday. So yeah, those are my specs.
Well, before we get into initial thoughts, just this quick word from our sponsors.
Climate change and environmental loss can feel overwhelming. But around the world, ordinary people are proving that change starts where you stand. The Goldman Environmental Prize honors grassroots leaders protecting our planet. Discover their stories at goldmanprize.org.
Okay, initial thoughts. Who wants to go first?
Well, we should say that this is the first movie we've done on the show in like a year.
A long time.
Where neither of us had seen it before.
Yeah.
So that's where this is as
this
fresh as it
doesn't happen
gets.
that much.
Yeah, it doesn't. I think the last time it happened was I don't remember. It was there and then I lost it. I don't know. Oh, Tropical Malady.
Yeah.
Tropical Malady, we did it June of last year. That was the last episode that neither of us had seen the movie going in. What are your initial thoughts on Daughters of the Dust?
Listen, I mean, I think that it's great. I think in terms of like capturing a culture of oral history and using film as a medium for that, and the way it's just this giant tapestry of this narration by this unborn child, and then we're with this person, it's flashing to different things that seem completely random and sometimes are, but sometimes aren't. and, you know, ancient customs and traumas. I think the film's absolutely beautiful at that. Like, I think that's great. I love the way it feels. I do. I love the way it looks. I had no idea about this going in. And so to not get like a straight narrative is always fun. Like, it did spin me on my head. And it does take a while. I will say it does take a while to get into it, because you are kind of like, who am I following? Who is this person? Is this the granddaughter? Is this the like, it was, you know, that takes a little bit of getting used to. But I think once you're clear on that, it's pretty smooth sailing from there. Yeah, I like the imagery a lot. This is my thing. I wish it was a little quieter. I think the score was a little, and mostly just the synth. Because it's really interesting, because in Lemonade, which is the Beyonce film, there are these gorgeous moments where you're just in a field and it's like quiet and it's like crickets, and it's the same. It's girls in like beautiful white dresses. And of course, sometimes there's Beyonce songs playing. But the moments of quiet, it's a great album. But the moments of quiet in that visual album, I almost wish that this film had more of it. Yeah. And I know that's really wrong to say that.
Why is it wrong?
The inspo is almost doing like that aspect. It's the synth. You know, it's the synth. I think the synth was too much. And it does feel kind of 90s-y. And a little bit of the slow-mo, I feel like, was a little 90s-y. But other than that, like, I wish I had some of those moments in complete silence. Oh, God. Even like Eli on the lake when he's like, I think there's music in that moment, but I love that moment so much. That like very mystical. He's basically sitting on the water. Mm-hmm. Incredible. And I love the idea of this unborn child as the narrator and having her run around like kind of seen by some people, kind of not. And she has that blue ribbon. It reminded me of the little girl in Schindler's List. Reminded me of that. The movie kind of reminded me of The Piano and its terrain. I guess I really didn't know how influential this film was. Like I said, there was a film in 2023 called All Dirt Roads Taste of Salt, which I'm sure took a lot, like the director for sure took a lot from this film. Absolutely beautiful film as well. It's also like, it's always good to be reminded that there are languages and cultures in the US that aren't English or just like American. Yeah. Like mostly, yeah. I mean, and they're here because of like mostly like terrible colonization and slavery, but there's cultures nonetheless, and it's important to discuss them and highlight them. And I think this film does a beautiful job of doing that. Like I learned a lot watching this film, and it was great. Did you watch it with subtitles is my question for you.
No, just the ones that are burned in.
Okay, I did turn on the subtitles. But I'm crazy. Like, I love to know exactly what... I love scripts, and I love to know what people are saying. Yeah. Like, a lot. So I did watch it with subtitles, but I don't think it took from the film. But now, like, next time I watch it, I won't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially because we were watching it for the podcast and stuff.
Right. You wanted to get every nook and cranny.
That's how I usually am when I watch these podcast movies.
Oh, always the subtitles.
No. Oh. I make sure I understand every nook and cranny. That doesn't necessarily mean
that's good.
I'm watching with subtitles.
I'm imagining if we were in school together and we were in a group project.
I would do all the work.
I was about to say.
I hated group projects because I had to do all the work. I hated them. And I hated that even in college they made you do it. Like, why do they make you do group projects in college?
I know.
It's terrible. Talk to me about your initial thoughts.
Yeah. So this was my first time seeing this, and I'd heard about this movie for a long time and its cultural significance, and I can appreciate all of that a lot. This is a very significant movie. And, you know, as a white man, I don't really feel qualified to talk about this movie. This movie, you know what I mean? It's not my place to come on here and be like, well, this is what Daughters of the Dust means, or, you know.
Right.
I can only talk about my own personal reaction to the movie. And because we have a film podcast where we come on here and we give our own personal thoughts on these great works of art, I can only speak to my personal experience with this movie, my own emotional response, which is what I'm going to do here.
Okay.
I appreciate the story it's telling, the people it's telling the story about. I appreciate Julie Dash's story as a filmmaker and what compelled her to make this movie. I love the idea behind the movie. I didn't even make the connection that the child speaking is the unborn child.
But she says, like, my mom and dad stayed and my mom was always different. She's
no, you're right. Look.
She said my mom put that glass under her bed to talk to her mom. I'll get into that later, but like,
I think I had a hard time connecting with the movie because of the way that it's made. And it's to touch on some of the things you just said. The score for this movie is mostly atrocious. It's a terrible, cheap sounding score that doesn't just sound 90s, but sounds like an after school special. I texted you while I was watching this and I was like, this feels like the kind of movie that like an English teacher or a history teacher in high school would have shown us. Because it had that kind of educational, cheap feel to it, even though the movie's shot beautifully. But I don't think that Julie Dash has a great command over her cinematic language. I think the frame rate stuff throughout this movie, the constant slowing down of things was so overdone. The music is slathered in every nook of this movie. So it's so rare that you're able to just sit there.
That's what I mean. I wish there was.
And the music is so bad. And unfortunately, I understand it's a low budget movie, but most of the actors in this movie give major community theater vibes. Like a lot of these performances are bad. They're bad. And they're these big impassioned monologues. And I'm like, you're a bad actor. And so this movie didn't work for me. And I'm not going to come on here and say this movie has no merit or shouldn't be on the Sight and Sound list, but I struggled with this one. I think like it takes a certain skill to make a movie that's just kind of these like monologues and like, poetic, like it's clear what she's going for. I know what she's going for and I see it on like, I see a version of this working, but for me, she doesn't have the chops to pull it off. So says the white guy on the episode about Daughters of the Dust. This is just my, I have to be real. This is my response. I like really struggled through this movie. I had to watch it in 2 sittings. And I was like, really, even in the last like 30 minutes, I was like, end. Really?
I actually really liked the second half of it more.
Oh, for me.
With the dinner. I love that dinner.
It just all ran together for me.
Really?
Again, I'm not the person to speak on this movie, but anyway, that's
End of episode.
Yeah, that's my reaction.
Well, let me just maybe highlight some things that I really loved that stood out to me. The unborn child. Now that you know that it's the unborn child, so like that little girl running around with the blue ribbon, you didn't.
No, I guess I did.
Realize.
Well, the way there's that scene where she runs into
her womb, which is very 90s. Which is very 90s.
I'm sorry, no, it's not. I mean, I'm not buying it. She runs into her womb.
I do feel like if the movie was made a little less fashionable for what was fashionable in the 90s, it would be a stronger film. Mostly, like you said, the frame rate, the synth score. That's really it for me, though. Like, I'm being completely honest here. That is really it for me.
And it's not a good synth score either. It's like a middling like.
There's also synth sound effects.
Yeah.
Which I felt were a little distracting, but really for me, that's where my complaints about the movie end.
That's
because
great.
I do think that it's gorgeous.
I'm glad that you loved it.
I do think that it's this beautiful family tapestry that I love, and I love how different Viola is from the other one. I think her name is Hagar. And they're so different, and Viola is so good. And the actress playing Viola is great. And she I think went on to do the most after. She's in a few things. I looked up her IMDb. And I could tell while I was watching it, too. Could you tell?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the woman who plays Eula is actually in that one Spike Lee movie. Do you know what I'm... Listen, Greg, they're also speaking a language that they're not...
I know.
They had to learn for the film.
There was a dialect coach.
So that's also really hard.
Yeah.
But for me, like, Nana Pazant worked absolutely for me.
She did. No, some of the actors are really good, but I would say it's like a third of the actors were good and 2/3 were bad. 2/3 were like very affected acting. And I understand the movie has this heightened quality to it, so it's not going for this like gritty realism, because no one just kind of goes to the beach and monologues the whole day. Like, that's not the,
for sure.
It's not real life.
No, of course not. But like, they are practicing this like oral tradition of telling their history, remembering their ancestors, remembering where they came from. And I think there's real moments of beauty here.
I think so, too.
I really do love the unborn child. Like, I love that as a device, and I love how Nana Pazant in the beginning. But like I said, it is hard to get into. So, like, when Eli and Nana Pazant are talking and they're having that first conversation, it is hard to understand what they're kind of talking to. And it took rewinding, and it took putting on subtitles for me to really understand. But I love Nana Pazant. Like Eli's getting mad, and she's like, Eula doesn't belong to you. She married you. She doesn't belong to you.
Yeah.
And that's like such a great line. Like, the movie is peppered with these great wisdoms, I feel like. And she also said, like, you wouldn't have a baby that wasn't sent to you, because he's all worried, like, it's not my baby. And she says you wouldn't have a baby that wasn't sent to you. So even if it is the rapist's baby, like, this is the situation. Like, it was just, it's just a really beautiful way for her to say that. And I just loved it. And then they're talking, I mean, they always talk about their ancestors, but like, Eli's hand is on this grave of another Eli Pazant. Like, you don't know who that is, his father, his grandfather, you don't know.
Right.
And that's gorgeous. And it's just really the way that the movie's framed of, like, Eli is losing his faith. He kind of breaks down and he's like, I thought my great grandma had me. Like, I thought we were covered because she had all of these traditions and beliefs and she did all of this stuff. She had rice, she had the bottles on the tree. But no, look, my wife got raped. Like, and his faith is being destroyed and he wants to go to a new place, but then they end up staying. And I think that's really beautiful too. I don't know. It just... And like Nana, like the reason I like this tapestry is, yes, it's confusing, but things that people say come back later, and that worked for me. Like the way that Nana Pazant in that first scene when they're in the graveyard, she says, you know, they're all connected. They're connected to their ancestors. They don't know where these memories come from. They don't know where these recollections come from, but they must carry these memories of their ancestors. Later in the film, the unborn child is like, I remember and I recollect. And she's talking about like the trail back. And it's completely a different situation. But then you're reminded of what she said at the start. And I really like that.
The whole movie has that kind of cyclical quality to it, where it all exists
really
in this its own time.
But you don't know, because it first opens with the unborn child saying like, my mommy and daddy like had a problem. And then it cuts to like the glass jar full of flowers under their bed that Eula put. And then later you hear, she says like, my mom put that there to call her mom to help her. And so like, just the way that it recalls and recollects, literally, like it almost puts you in the perspective of that. It's like, why am I seeing this? This looks so familiar. And then it's brought up again and you're like, ah, yes.
Right. It's like poetry in film form is what she's going for.
I mean, it worked for me. It worked for me. And then Eli, kneeling at the water after we've heard the story about the Igbo people and how some people say they walked on the water. And then that one older guy is like, I was there, they drowned.
Right.
And that was really beautiful and sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does it a few times. Or even like when he's smashing the bottles on his tree after he's had this really tough conversation. I didn't know what those bottles were. And then I think Nana Pazant brings it up later and she's like, oh yeah, those remind me, like the colors, each color reminds me of like another person essentially that is like passed on. So, I don't know.
A lot of beautiful stuff.
For me.
I think that there's a lot of beautiful stuff in this movie. I think it's shot stunningly. In fact, I think some of the editing does the DP a little dirty. Like I almost wonder if the DP watched this and was like, what the fuck did they do to my shots?
I don't think so, because he's actually listed as a producer.
Oh, okay. But it looks beautiful. It really does.
It's absolutely
It almost
gorgeous.
looks like it's like 16 millimeter because it's like ultra grainy.
I don't know what it was shot on.
But it's like I like the poetry, the cinematic poetry thing that it's going for. I think a movie like this where every line is sort of sacred and everything that's said is supposed to sort of be mulled over and like brought close, and it's just like it makes it all exhausting because you're like, if every line out of these people's mouths, like every single character has these like very profound things to say, it's just like, okay, so the whole movie is just this very profound treatise on
I don't know if every line is profound though. I don't know.
I feel like Julie Dash treats it that way.
Well, there's all those teenage girls who are like dancing on the beach, and what are they? They're talking about a boy.
Yeah, but
they're talking about that
they're
guy.
like slowed down to this poetic. It's like the way she uses the frame rate and everything too. She kind of makes every single moment. I'm going to play into your stereotype, Jackie. She makes every single moment precious.
What's my stereotype? That you always say that?
Yeah, you're on me about overusing that word.
Well, I think about this. If she didn't use the frame rate, I don't think you'd feel that way.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying I think so too. I think my problems with this movie are mostly cosmetic. I think ultimately it does feel like a student film. I think the material's good, and I can see this working better as a book. So I'm almost curious. I mean, I'm probably not going to read the book.
The book is a sequel.
It's a sequel, but I can imagine this would work better on the page than what Julie Dash can bring to the screen. That sounds like I'm really tearing her apart.
What about Yellow Mary? Do we think she's gay?
Possibly.
Because on like Wikipedia, it was written that like that woman Trula's her lover, and I'm like,
I don't think there's enough evidence to support that.
And I don't even think that's what they're implying when they're all gossiping about her.
Right.
I think they're talking about, and they even say like, Eula says it, like when you guys are all talking about her, but like who paid to get cousin Jake out of jail, and how did she get that money? I think it's more implied that she was like doing sex work more than
I thought you were just gonna say doing sex, like she was doing sex,
doing the sex.
Maybe the sequel clarifies that.
That's the impression I got, because they kept saying she's a fallen woman, so like that's what I thought it was. But I don't think Trula, I mean, I could be, unless Julie Dash has come out and said like, no, I did write Trula to be her lover, but I didn't really get it. I kind of like that Yellow Mary stays too. Yeah. And this whole thing of just like old and new, I think is done very well, especially with Viola and the photographer. I love that photographer. Mm-hmm. And it's just funny because like, yeah, they all want to go to the mainland, but they're all talking crap about Yellow Mary. Yeah. So, hypocrites? I'm just kidding. That's what I think Eula clarifies in her monologue of just like, we make these scars, like we scar ourselves so that no one else can hurt us, and the scars are weighing us down. I think her monologue's great. I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, some are. I think when the whole movie is just monologuing, it's a little exhausting. Yeah. Honestly, again, I've said this before about other movies. I'll kind of reiterate it here. Is like a movie should have movements. A movie should ebb and fall. Like it should. This movie, you can kind of take any 5 minutes of this movie, and it could come from any place. It could be the beginning, could be the middle, could be the end. Because the whole movie it's
not.
I understand. Narrative. I understand too that it's this day at the beach. that oversimplifies it, but I understand that that's what it's supposed to be, and the movie is just this rumination that's happening, and I understand that it's culturally rooted, right? But like, it just, the whole movie has the same kind of feel to it. It just never changes gears. It just kind of, it's like one level the whole it's at the whole time. I don't know why.
There is no beginning, middle, or end.
Yeah, and I know that's part of the point. But a little exhausting to watch. Again, not that like films shouldn't be easy. They don't necessarily need to be easy to watch, right? Like films are work of art. They're art. And like we shouldn't be so beholden to like, oh, well, this was tough to get through. Because so what? A lot of movies we've done on the show are tough to get through. But I found myself bored with this in a way that I didn't when we did like Satan Tango or something like that, which is 7 hours long and moves at a glacial pace. Because I feel like the filmmaking was a real obstacle for me to get into the characters and the story.
I hear you.
But I don't want to sound like a broken record. I've said my piece on that.
Your wedding begins here. You've found your person. Now find your perfect place. Welcome to Marin County, where your love story meets its perfect setting. Exchange vows beneath ancient redwoods on a sun-kissed beach or overlooking the sparkling San Francisco Bay. Whether you're planning an intimate elopement or a grand affair, Marin offers the space and the spirit to make your wedding uniquely yours. Discover where forever begins at visitmarin.org and explore the weddings page for details.
You know what I love is the shot of the boat at the start where Yellow Mary's like all in white and her face is hidden, and Viola and the photographer sit on the canoe.
Mm-hmm.
That was the moment for me where I was like, oh, like that was the hook for me.
It kind of reminded me of Picnic at Hanging Rock.
Doesn't it?
Like more
it's kind of
people in Victorian garb.
the
like,
white.
with
I love those
on a
white
rugged
dresses.
landscape. Yeah.
I love those white dresses.
Yeah.
They're beautiful. I connected to the film, but it is totally okay that you didn't.
Well, it feels like, you know, it's rough, right? Because I think one thing we have with this show is just honesty. And when you have a movie that's as important as this one, and obviously it's this big milestone for so many reasons, but there's a lot of pressure behind it, right? And part of you wants to come on and be like, yeah, it's good, it's beautiful, it's great. But, you know, ultimately, it just didn't work for me. It really didn't work. But I'm glad that it worked for you. And clearly it works for many other people because it is on the top 100 list for the Sight and Sound.
It's just interesting that, and this is what I mean, where it's like you learn a lot while watching films. I mean, I learned a lot. Apparently there was a show called Gullah Gullah, which I didn't know.
Gullah Island.
Which I didn't know about.
Yeah, see, I put that together while I was watching
I don't know about that. So
Yeah.
I'm watching it and I'm like, this is off the coast of South Carolina. And I mean, obviously I know about, you know, Creole cultures in the United States, and I was a Ling major, so I know what a Creole is, but still, like, I didn't know any specifics, and so this was really delightful in that way too, of just learning about that. And interesting to hear the perspective of Nana Pazant, who does not want to leave, considering how they got there, considering the circumstances of how hard their life was on this island the moment they were brought to this island. But she's so tied to the soil, and she's so tied to the land, which is just really fascinating. And this idea, she says something. She says, "The sweat of our love is here in this soil," and I was like, "Oh, what?"
Yeah.
And this idea of planting and dust, and they're the daughters of dust, and the dust in the tin box, and then the ground, when it flashes to her being young, flashes for 1 second, and she's like, how are we going to plant here? It's all dust. And I'm assuming her husband, Papa Pazant, is saying like, no, we have to plant.
Yeah.
And then of course, like, this is the fruit of their labors. And it's like all of these people in this new generation that's going to have a completely different life. And so... yeah, I mean, it's just...
yeah, there's a lot they're grappling with, obviously. I mean, it's like, yeah, absolutely, because the circumstances of their existence there are really sinister.
And yet she doesn't want to leave.
Yeah, because it becomes the normal, and this takes place turn of the century, so slavery has been abolished for, what, like 50 years at this point or something?
About 40 something.
Oh, right, Civil War. But, yeah, I mean, it just feels... I get it, you know. I think that theme is universal of just the, you know, your
not
existence.
Wanting to leave.
Yeah, even though your existence there is sad and tragic in the first place, and you know, they were brought over in ships, and their ancestors were slaves, but
of course, it's tied to their beliefs and their traditions of having a connection with their ancestors, and I think she just fears if they leave, that connection's lost.
Right.
Even though their ancestors were brought here on such terrible conditions. But that dinner looks so good. I even wrote a note because I was so hungry while I was watching it. I'm like, this food looks so fucking good. That gumbo looks incredible. That crab. Even when they're chopping the okra, like that, I just feel very connected to that, because obviously, you know, you grow up and you watch women chopping things in kitchens all the time, or at least how I grew up. So, I mean, it was gorgeous, and they were passing all the plates, and there's so much food, and it's very symbolic. And look how far they've come, really. And they say it a few times in the film.
When they're sticking the ends of the okra on the kids' heads, on their foreheads.
Yes. Yeah. I used to do that with cucumbers.
Oh, really?
We used to do that, yeah.
On your head?
Yeah. And it was like supposed to give you, like, it's like because they were cold usually.
Right.
And it's like you do it in the summer and it cools you down.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they use them in spas and stuff over your eyes.
But we just did the ends, like the little, like when someone was chopping, when my mom was chopping a cucumber, the two little ends.
Because you're not going to use it anyway.
You just stick it on your forehead.
Oh, amazing.
So that was funny.
Yeah, no, the food did look really good.
Oh my God.
Gumbo and
It looked so good.
the crab. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of all that stuff. In fact, that sounds delightful right now.
Gumbo sounds
It is about lunchtime.
Great. But what I like about it is like it lasts just the right amount of time. That moment where they're unpacking the food and they're all eating it, and the sound effects are great there because it's the clanging of plates and shells on the glass. And it's the perfect amount of featuring like each dish and cutting at the exact right time. Like that part, in fact, that was almost my favorite side of just like all of that, like that whole montage. So yeah.
That's quite the montage.
I know.
I like the film's use of close-up too. It uses it a lot. And obviously for a movie like this, it's kind of essential. The movie does alternate between these like long shots, these master shots that contain everything, like when they're eating or they're running around and playing, and then these like really tight close-ups that it just works. Yeah.
For sure.
When the actor's good, it works.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
The film's significance aside.
Yeah.
Sight and Sound top 100? Just judging as a piece of filmmaking. If you didn't know anything about the making of this movie or any of its firsts and you just looked at it as a movie.
Probably not. I mean, I don't need to ask you that. But here's the thing. I feel like if it wasn't made in this like... If it didn't have these elements that are really bumping for me, like the aesthetic elements as we talked about and also the sound, like...
Those are big elements though.
I know, but I just see this move, like I can
You can see through
past
it. Yeah. That's great.
If it wasn't made in the 90s almost, then it might be on the Sight and Sound list for me. It was like, it felt so 90s to me.
No,
that's
but
what it was.
I don't even think that's it because there's a lot of movies that very much feel like their era, even when they're kind of period pieces, but it just kind of works. Whereas like this just feels, I think the 90s-ness of it all that you're referring to is almost like a cheapness because the score makes it sound cheap.
Yeah, maybe.
And it's all over the movie. All over.
That's the thing. There's very little silence.
Yeah. And I think that is a huge, like, it's a sadness to me because I think if this score was cut in half or a third, or like if the score was better, it would go a long way because it is such a character in the movie. But also the constantly changing frame rates. And I do love when she slows it down just enough to where you almost can't, it takes you a second to even realize it slowed down. Because it adds this just like heightened poetic quality to it. But the constant choppy, like framey, slow-mo stuff, and it just like constantly gets used. And it kind of feels like someone in film school just like trying everything, like pushing all the buttons at once. Instead of something really calculated, like a complete vision.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but...
Because the editing of a film and the sound of a film, those are big.
Doesn't feel cheap to me.
It doesn't feel cheap?
No.
What about the performances?
And it's funny because even Roger Ebert said, he's like, it's so interesting that this movie costs less than $1 million because it doesn't feel that way.
Oh, it 100% does.
Not according to Ebert.
Well, I disagree with him. If you told me this movie was made for $75,000, I'd be like, yep.
What? But the costumes are nice.
Yeah, but...
The sets are nice.
It's a beach. Most of it, it's a beach.
Well, they have all these like trinkets and stuff.
Yeah. $75,000, I would have believed it.
Really?
But that's not... Look, I'm not coming on to say that a cheap movie is a bad movie. I love movies that... There's some great movies that made for like $10,000. So I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying I don't see this movie. This doesn't look like an expensive movie at all, which is, again, it's fine. But
you don't like when the photographer sees the unborn child in his little viewfinder?
No, I
a
do.
Second?
I do.
It's so nice.
Yeah.
I love that moment.
I don't hate the movie. There's a lot of beautiful moments. I'm frustrated with it because it's like you can see. I think you are able to look past its shortcomings and be like, I see the movie that it was meant to be. Whereas, like, I can see the movie was meant to be, but I can't get over the hurdle of, like, the mistakes, as I see them, the mistakes of just, like, if you had just landed this stuff a little bit better, this movie would really come to life. I feel like a broken record, but Sight and Sound?
Yeah.
Well, before we get into Sight and Sound, just this quick word from our sponsors.
Let's check in on the Serta counting sheep.
Why aren't we counting anymore?
Well, the all-new Serta Perfect Sleeper has the Q4 support system that helps relieve aches and back pain.
We'll never get counted again.
Nope.
Save this Memorial Day. Shop at a retailer near you.
Favorite site?
So it's hard because I actually have a few. I think Eli on the water going out to whatever that wooden, there's like some sort of dedication to the Igbo people in the water there. And he's like on his knees in the water floating. Like that's
yes.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
There's also the Weeping Willow shot at the beginning. That's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
There's also a shot of Yellow Mary and Trula smoking in this giant tree.
Yes,
That's
laughing.
Gorgeous.
Right when they're like giggling?
I think so,
Yeah.
but they're smoking. Those are all gorgeous.
Yeah.
I can't really choose. What about you?
Mine, I mean, yeah, this movie is beautifully shot. I love the Weeping Willow shot. I love the shot of them in the tree. I love the shot. I'm just going to go with the one where someone is silhouetted against a sunset on the beach, which sounds so cliche to even say that, but it was just striking. I mean, the movie looks very beautiful, so it's hard to like really pinpoint it, but I liked that shot a lot.
Nice.
It felt kind of wistful too, like someone looking out.
Nice.
Yeah. Sound.
Viola has a line at the very start, and it's "What's past is prologue," which is such a good line. It's just one of those classic moments. Like she like looked out and she's like, "What's past is prologue," and I was like, "Yeah."
Let's hear it.
What's past is prologue.
Too precious for you?
I'm abstaining from picking a sound because I was so offended by the.
Are you serious? There's a lot of gorgeous lines in here.
Yeah, but there was no single line that like really stood out to me.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So I'm not picking a sound. I think
really
I think too when
crazy.
your score is this bad, like I'm not picking one.
That's crazy.
I'm sorry. Look, I'm sorry. There was nothing. I really, while watching this and afterwards, I was thinking, I'm like, is there a line that like stood out above the others that stuck with me? Or it's like, no. Score, horrific. And there's not even a moment of silence or just like wind or waves that's kind of quiet that I would pick. So, because the score is just over every fucking moment of this. I think too, part of it is like people are speaking and you still have this nasty score on top. And I'm just like, okay, well, the moment's ruined. So it just goes to show, I mean, look, different people are more sensitive to these things, but like these things are important. Music in your film is very, very important. And if you don't take it seriously, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass.
It is super important.
Yeah. I don't know who this budget composer is they got, but.
Budget composer.
And I get that that's part of the, low budget filmmaking, but I think so many low budget movies still manage to have great music in them or don't have any music at all. If you can't afford a good composer, just go. I would much rather have just the sound of the beach and stuff over this movie.
Sound of the beach is gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, we would normally do Pauline Kael here, but I couldn't find a review of this from her. She was about to retire around this point. But yeah, I could not find a review.
Too bad.
Yeah, so we won't know what Pauline thinks. That's its own discussion right there. We could have a whole episode on what we think Pauline Kael would think of this movie.
What do you think she would think of it?
I don't think she would have liked it. Let's be real. We know Pauline.
Honestly, I don't feel like I know her that well.
Well, we do have all the lovely people at Letterboxd. I have a 5-star review here that says, "This time around, my familiarity with the characters and narrative helped this register not only as a towering aesthetic achievement, but a deeply emotional one. That brief moment when the unborn child appears next to her father as he's posing for a photograph? Oof. Everyone in this movie is aching for belonging, even as some of them feel called to leave the only place they've ever belonged."
Yeah, that's about right. I feel like it's a movie I will love more and more every time I watch it, to be honest, because it's hard to break through. It's hard to figure out the dynamics. Okay. 4 stars. I am the silence that you cannot understand. Equal parts melancholic and hopeful, Daughters of the Dust is situated in the liminal space before one way of life begins and another ends. It's a visually gorgeous and culturally important movie that doesn't sacrifice entertainment for messaging and a rich exploration of a lesser-known time and place, poetry on screen. And that is right, and that's why I think The Unborn Child is such a great device where it's like, yeah, they are literally on the cusp of the old and the new, and the only reason she's here is because of this old tradition.
Yeah.
But also, is she going to go to the is she going to be born on the mainland? Is she going to be born here? It's great.
Yeah. A lot of beautiful ideas in this movie.
But see, that's what I mean, Greg. When you say that you don't think you can see why Julie Dash didn't have a Hollywood career, like, I think that she has a clear voice. I think she's got a clear, I think that this film has vision. And
for sure it has vision.
Depth.
I think, yeah, no, of course it has depth. I think it's a beautifully thought movie. I just don't think she fully pulls it off aesthetically. And I think a movie where it is poetry on screen, that it's just like all of those aesthetic details matter, and the acting matters. 2 stars, and this perfectly sums up how I feel. And this person starts with the quote, "What's past is prologue."
I love that line.
Visually stunning and culturally significant, but severely lacking everywhere else. The narrative has no cohesion, instead feeling bloated and random to the point of tedium. The acting ranges from decent to laughably ridiculous, taking me out of the element several times. This is probably due to none of the actors actually knowing the Gullah dialect and having to be coached on it just to speak it that way for the film. The audio is questionable, with much of the music feeling dated and out of place, and there always seems to be some type of wind noise in the background that makes some of the dialogue feel unusually quiet. Also, there are moments of true beauty in the cinematography. Some of the editing choices are a little strange and don't match the tone of the film. I could see how some people would really enjoy this, and admittedly, it's not completely terrible, but I couldn't get into it. At times, this felt like a 90s made-for-TV movie. Dash deserves all of the respect in the world for pushing her vision of authenticity on the subject matter. I just don't think it has aged very well, and it's a little too all over the place for my tastes. Still, it's definitely worth at least a single watch, and judging by the other reviews, there's a good chance you'll get more out of it than I did. Mostly agree. And it feels shallow to dock a movie for aesthetic reasons, but film is an aesthetic medium.
I don't think it feels shallow to dock for aesthetic reasons. I think it's something to discuss, which we did, which is good. There's one that's 4.5 stars and it just says women talking, but it's like quoting that movie, Women Talking.
Oh yeah.
Just like, I feel like this is women talking done right.
I never saw Women Talking.
Oh, Jessie Buckley's great in it, obviously. Claire Foy is really good too.
Who directed that?
Someone. Who directed that?
An actor. I think.
Who was it? I liked it. I remember liking it, but this is on another level for me. Sarah Polley.
Oh, Sarah Polley.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
I remember.
Someone gave it 4.5 stars and said, cinematic poetry at its finest. The rich tones of the earth and sea, memory and tradition passed on from woman to woman, delicate dresses flowing in the breeze, hands working, a folk tale unfolding. It's sublime. See, everything they just said, I want that movie. Like, I want that. If this had those... If I felt that way about this movie, I would love it.
Someone gave it 3 stars and said, enjoyed this considerably, but whoever chose all the synth heavy cuts on this soundtrack should be fired out of a cannon directly into the sea.
You know what's funny? I don't even think that a synth score is the wrong direction for this. I wouldn't pick it. This also came out in like 1990, 1991. So it's understandable. I just think the music is bad. Like, I think the composer just is not very talented musically. So it's not even the synthness of it all that's a turnoff. It's just that it's not a good score and that it's overwhelming. And in every possible cranny of this movie.
Nook and cranny.
Nook and cranny.
Well, that's Daughters of the Dust.
It is.
I'm very happy I saw this.
It feels like a good one to cross off, finally. So... So, next week, doing a complete 180 from this, is our final film of the 2022 Top 100. It is our third Scorsese, I believe, because we did Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. It is Goodfellas. That is a complete 180 from this. But that is going to be our final film from the Top 100. So please join us for that. Until then, I'm Greg.
I'm Jackie.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Seen and Heard is an official podcast of the Arroyo Film Club. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to drop us a line, you can find us on email at hello@seenandheardpod.com or on Instagram at seenandheardpod.
In the face of climate change and environmental loss, it can feel like the challenges are too big to solve. But around the world, ordinary people are showing us that change starts where you stand. For 37 years, the Goldman Environmental Prize has honored grassroots leaders protecting our planet. Leaders like Alana Akok Hurley, who helped unite Indigenous nations and local communities to defend Alaska's Bristol Bay from a massive mining project, protecting one of the world's most important salmon ecosystems. Or Iroro Tanshi, who rediscovered an endangered bat species in Nigeria and worked with local communities to build a wildfire prevention system protecting its habitat. These leaders show that meaningful environmental change doesn't begin in boardrooms or capitals. It begins in our communities. It begins with ordinary people. It begins where you stand. Discover the stories of the 2026 Goldman Environmental Prize winners at goldmanprize.org.